and welcome to the Gazette discussion for 3rd August 2021. My name is Harsh Singh, and as usual, we will have many interesting topics for the discussion. Our discussion is divided in two components. The first video is on the featured news, which is on BRICS Counter-Terrorist Action Plan. Now, this plan is very important because there is an increased threat of terrorist activities, also diversified kind of terrorism happening around the world. And therefore, these nations have come together to conduct an action plan on the same. So in this article, we will understand why are there increased terrorist activities around the world in these times, in the modern times. What are the impediments for BRICS? And what is the way forward? How can we actually implement a great action plan against terrorism? This is the featured news, a holistic article in itself. The second video will contain rest of the discussion, which is about, first, Christopher Columbus, something special on this day in history. And then we have three new snapshots, three update articles for you. The first on IUCN Green Status, not the red, Green Status, update on this. Decommissioning of coal power plants resulting in more efficiency in the energy sector, another important article. And All India Quota. We'll discuss these three articles in snapshot section. The third one is about black hole and light echoing through it. Terms and concepts. We have got 4 terms and concepts for you today. One, hunger hotspots released by Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO. The second one is ashwagandha, some research being carried out, some technical term in UK. And the third one is Delhi Alwar Rapid Transit System, right? And the fourth one is Halam community from Tripura. These are the terms and concepts. 3 editorials for you today. The first one that I will summarize for you is on disruptions in parliament and how they can be minimized. The second editorial is on begging and how it has been criminalized against welfare issues. So welfare not being done and begging being criminalized. The third one is a very interesting article on Indo-Abrahamic Accords, right? So international relations. Case study of the day is on a person who has conquered their mind and also a silver medal in the Olympics in shot put. So we will have an inspiring case study of the day today. Let's start the discussion. We have dedicated this day in history to Christopher Columbus. Now, this was the day, August 3rd, back in 1492, when this Italian explorer, he said, I am going to explore and reach India. And he said that this time I will go west because the whole world is round. I'll go west and that's how I'll reach India. And what he did, he started in 1942 and he said, I'll go west and reach India. But where did he reach? Because this land was not explored ever. He actually ended up reaching the Central America part. And this is what he says, he calls Indies. So that is why this name to these kind of, this region, West Indies. Right, very interesting history to it. But why did he actually explore? Why did he need to go? Right, so he was an Italian explorer, also funded by Spanish kings. Now, this also led to later colonization of the Americas. Later, also Magellan later went in the 16th century, early 16th century. We had Vasco traveling to India, right, through this route. So the year was 1498. Why did these people need to go? Why did these people, geographical explorers, need to travel to Indies specifically? This was there because 1453, a major event happened. What was it? It was the capture of Constantinople. So this particular place, Turkey is the place which is in news for other reasons as well now. We'll discuss in the editorial. But Turkey was the place which was in news 1453 because of capture of this place. Now, the Byzantine Empire at that time was captured by the Ottoman Turks, and this trade between Europe and East, it got restricted, and therefore they had to have different mechanisms to reach India, right? And this is the time when they explored a new whole world, right? Americas. So this is a brief history to it. Fall of Constantinople, Byzantine and Ottoman Empire, right? Ottoman Turks. New snapshot. The first snapshot is on new IUCN Green Status. We have always studied about IUCN Red List, right? So Red List has 9 categories of plants, animals and fungi, etc., right? So IUCN maintains the world's largest database for vulnerable species, and it categorizes into various categories like data deficiency, least concerned, and then comes threatened, vulnerable, endangered, extinct in the wild and extinct species. The difference between extinct in the wild and extinct is that if the species are extinct in the wild, they can again be preserved in situ at zoos, right? Not in situ, but ex situ, in zoos, in conservation reserves. So they are no more present in the wild, but still present. But if they die all the places they are extinct. They have been lost from the face of Earth. So this is the red list. But IUCN now has presented a green list. Why so? Now, red and green, you can very well understand the difference between this. Red talks of threatened and green is a little positive, right? So green status indicates what is the process of recovery of those particular species. So here in green status, the conservation success will be implemented. The conservation also will be spoken in terms of how much population has increased, what is the area of this particular species and how it is now being conserved. So the idea is to ensure an efficient conservation through the streamlining of statistics and data. So this is the idea. So the idea is to plot a path of recovery. The same species which was in red list will be put in green list and its whole recovery mechanism will be enabled. So the whole planning of the process will be easier. It will also reflect as a success story. So the particular reasons why we have this mechanism are to complement the red list, right? So the whole idea is to ensure a mechanism in which the red list is complemented, right? Red list only talks about the particular species and in which category it is present. Green will also talk about the population growth, right? The way it has improved. So it will complement. This is one. It will plot the path to recovery. So a positive light. It will be a relative measurement, right? So recovery, what is the relative status of the animal? In red list, only pinpointing was done. Green will also talk about how relatively it has become better with time. So this is the idea for planning and to have an optimistic approach, right? So the green status will also have a green score. Green score will range from 0 to 100. 0 is extinction in the wild, right? And then if the species gets recovered, it will actually be rated 100 if it is recovered fully. So fully recovered means it has got its viable population back, does not have any threat, so ecological functions are being maintained through that particular species, and it is present in all parts of range. There are some places where the animal may not be present because of human population. That is fine, but the animal and plant species will still be rated. So this is the main idea of presenting a green status, right? Now, this will also tell the story of that particular species, a story of how it has been recovered. So it is a very good measure from IUCN. Snapshot 2 is on decommissioning coal power plants. In the current world scenario, we see decreased investment in the fossil fuel kind of energy, right? But 60%, around 60% of electricity generation happens through coal power plants. These are age-old power plants and they have almost run their whole life. And therefore, it is required that these power plants be decommissioned, right? So we have also had new mechanisms where the idea is to increase the investment in solar renewable capacities, right? So 175 gigawatt by 2020, this is the agenda, and to have 450 gigawatt of clean energy production by 2030. And this is where coal power decommissioning also comes into play. So the idea is to decommission those kind of power plants where maintenance cost, operation cost is very high. So 30 gigawatt of coal power plant decommissioning will be done. This also requires paying out to the shareholders, paying out to the loans which have already been taking place, also helping the employees of the organization. So this is a whole plan which has been mentioned in this particular snapshot, right? Now, the idea is to have a unified electricity market combining all the newer form of electricity and the efficient older ones. Also, this article talks about temporarily mothballing. So what is mothballing? Mothballing is temporary stoppage of supply of electricity from this power plant, but maintaining it so that in case there be need, they be still functional, right? They will be used for the production of electricity later. So this is this article about. The third snapshot is on All India Quota. Right now, the news is that government has implemented 27% reservation and 10% reservation for the OBCs and the economically weaker sections in the All India Quota. Now, what is All India Quota? Now, India is a federation, right? And therefore, in this federation, there are various states which also have medical colleges. And these states also have to provide reservation to all India seats, right? So, in 1986, this was implemented saying that 15% of the seats of states, 15% of seats of states will be provided for reservation in undergraduate colleges and 50% in postgraduate colleges. Postgraduate colleges, 50% will be for All India Quota, right? And rest 50 will be state quota and other things, right? So 50% seats in state medical colleges, state, provinces, right? Their medical colleges will be provided to all India, right? So, and 15% to undergraduate colleges. So this is what was proposed in 1986. Now, in this All India Quota, in this particular quota itself, in the 15% seats, a specific part will be given to the economically weaker sections and 27% to the OBCs. This is what is the crux of this article. This is the update in this particular article. Image of the day is on black hole. Now, black hole is something which always absorbs light, right? Now, this is the first time it has been seen. This is a simulated image, and this is the first time it has been observed by the scientists that some X-ray flare, it was so bright that some of the light reflected, right? There were gas particles which were coming in to the black hole, and it actually reflected. Some light X-rays have reflected from the black hole, and this has been observed first time. This was also proposed. This was also predicted by Albert Einstein almost a century back, 1916. Terms and concept. The first term and concept in news is the hunger hotspots. This is very important to understand that the whole world is going through a crisis, a hunger crisis, and how we'll be able to achieve these sustainable development goals with a lot of population living in hunger. India, thankfully, is secure as of now, but India is also one of the countries which is falling in this kind of trap. So countries are in this trap because of political instability, disease outbreak, displacement of people. We have studied about displacement of people in the 4-5 most vulnerable regions. For example, Sudan, Afghanistan, Myanmar, Syria, Lebanon, right? Central Africa. So these are the various countries which are vulnerable to this kind of threat, right? Hunger threat. This is the map which has been released by Food and Agriculture Organization. The issues are conflict, climate extremes, economic shocks, right? COVID, natural hazards. So these are the issues because of which these countries have come into light. Ethiopia and Madagascar are news highest alert regions, right? India is not in this list right now. So good news for India. Next term and concept is ashwagandha. So ashwagandha is an important herb, important Ayurveda herb, and it is now being studied by United Kingdom and India together of how it can promote recovery from COVID, right? So this herb can actually help prevent COVID and recover from COVID well. It is also got an adaptogen. So what is an adaptogen? If we have stress, this is what we take to be able to manage stress in the body. So cortisol levels can be managed in the body, and it can lead to lesser stress for the body. It also helps in recovery through various other mechanisms. For example, reducing anxiety, depression, arthritis, placebo control trials. What is that? Now, whenever trials are conducted, right? So suppose when trial is getting conducted, this is the trial scenario, and some patients are given ashwagandha in reality, and some patients are given something, but that is not ashwagandha. It has no effect, but patients are given it, and patients are analyzed later. The result will be, if the result is same, that means that ashwagandha didn't have lot of effect. But if the results are different, if ashwagandha actually created an impact on the person, so that means this is successful. So this trial was to understand that this placebo, right, it did not have an effect, but ashwagandha actually had an effect. So this is one of the kind of trial, placebo controlled trial, right? So this is what ashwagandha has gone through. Delhi Alwar RRTS project. So RRTS is regional rapid transit system. Now, what happens is that when an urban area is getting formed and it is getting enlarged, right? So a lot of people commute from far-flung areas, far-flung urban fringes, right? So inside the city, we will have a metro train network, right, for community transportation. But what about the suburbs? So this is the thing that is utilized for suburbs. Major cities, for example, New York, Chicago, they all have this urban connect, right? This regional rapid transport system. And this is where Delhi Alwar also connection will happen through a fast mode of commutation. So the train will be traveling at an average speed of 100 km per hour between Alwar and Delhi. Why? What is the need for this mechanism? First of all, improved air quality. There will be more transportation of people in future from these two places. So this is planning for future. And the third, road traffic congestion, which is getting handled through this kind of mechanism. So this is the main idea. Also, one has to present multiple mode of transportation in a major city. So these are the major reasons for which this project has been initiated. Halam community. Now this community is from Tripura. It is in news because there has been a clash between the Bru community of originally Mizoram, but now they are a part of Tripura and Halam community. So there was a dispute. There was a clash between Bru and Halam community. This is the Halam community, and we'll quickly understand what these two communities are. So Halam community are the local tribals of Mizoram and Tripura, and Bru community is a community which migrated from Mizoram to Tripura. So they tried to save themselves because there was some dispute that happened around 2 to 3 decades back. So they migrated to save their lives into Tripura, and there have been efforts to get them back to relocate themselves to Mizoram again, but they are fearful of their lives, right? So this conflict has happened because of the conflict over forest land, right? So something about Halam community. Now these community have lived in this area for a long time. They also practice jhum cultivation and tong ghar. These are the kind of ghar homes they live in, thatched bamboo roofs, and he hook is their popular dance, right? So remember this, and let me show to you how tong ghar looks like. So this is a tong ghar, thatched bamboo houses. Now, editorials and news. The first editorial news is about disruption of the parliament. The article speaks about three things. One, debate, discussion, and dissent. Now, this is an important part of discussion. Debating, discussion, and dissent. Please note this, right? Very good keyword to be used. But what about disruption? Is it a part of parliament? No, it cannot be. Why? Because if you disrupt the parliament, the functioning will stop, right? And this is what has happened this time also. Now, the parliament is thinking of curtailing this session again. The fourth session in this year is being curtailed. The first two for COVID, the third one again, and now the fourth one is being curtailed. So this is not leading anywhere for a democracy. The acts are being passed in haste. There is no discussion happening. And therefore, the idea is to ensure a meet for minimum 110 days for the parliament and minimum 90 days for the bigger legislative assemblies. This is what the editorial recommends. The editorial also talks about United Kingdom, where it says that if the parliament meets for more than 100 days, 20 days are given for the opposition also to determine what are the important challenges the country is facing, right? So the article also discusses what are the reasons for which this kind of disruption is happening. First of all, the opposition is not given enough time to hear their argument. Then the government does not pay heed to their argument, right? So for example, Pegasus debate on farmer prices, these are not being heard by the government. This is what the opposition alleges, right? There are other issues also. For example, there is less action by the party of the person who is creating ruckus in the parliament, and there is less action by the parliament itself, right? So these are the four reasons given in the article, right? So you can use these reasons and use this very good example where if we have more working days in the parliament, we could have 20 days for the opposition also to talk about, right? To talk about important issues. So this is a good solution oriented article. The second editorial is on criminalizing welfare issues. It specifically talks of begging, right? So there was a petition in the court which said that begging should be banned in these times, during COVID times, because this can actually spread COVID, right? So this is where the article says that the idea is to give welfare response. Where did these poor people come from? Why is anybody begging on streets? It is the failure of government, and the idea is to have a welfare response and not give them penalty on this, not criminalize this activity. Where will they go? What will they do? What will they eat? Right? So they are not begging by their own choice, but they are begging out of necessity, out of the crisis of food and finances and living, right? So these people, if we criminalize these kind of people who are begging, they become more susceptible to exploitation. So imagine child labor, imagine sexual exploitation, imagine people living on roads and their whole family. What will happen to them? They will be more prone to institutional exploitation also. So this is another component of this article which the article talks about, right? And the article concludes by saying, if we criminalize this kind of begging, if we criminalize this, whose interests are we serving? Are we trying to hide the state failure? Are we trying to hide the ways in which we can actually participate in welfare activities? Where will these people go? So a beautiful question, and this is how the article concludes. The third editorial is on Indo-Abrahamic Accords, right? Now, what is Abrahamic Accord? Now, important countries in the West Asia, Israel, Bahrain, Gulf countries, and UAE had a pact for mutual assistance, for friendly cooperation. So this is a landmark deal that happened between these particular countries, Israel, Bahrain, UAE, last year. This is called as Abrahamic Accords. Why? Because Israel, Bahrain, and UAE, all of them have Abrahamic origin, right, in the terms of religion, and therefore this accord happened. And this is where the article focuses about India. India could be a good participant here. How? Let's see. The article is a very beautiful article, and it says that important countries in the region are Turkey. Now, Turkey has border disputes with Greece. Turkey is also acting as a good friend to Pakistan. Now, this is India and Greece also have started participating in various kind of cooperation, security cooperation, etc. India has a good participation with Israel as well. Now, India also has good relations with countries like UAE and Bahrain in the Middle East. So why not India also participate in this kind of mechanism? Now Turkey is trying to dominate this whole regional space, right? But it cannot, because Turkey has some important competitors in the Middle East, right? In the Middle East region. So the article says that one should not focus on Iran and specifically on Israel, right? In the Middle East region against some threats. Turkey could be a major threat. Pakistan could be a major threat. So this is what the article is pointing about geostrategy. The article says that one should not view as in this region through the eyes of religion. That if one is in Islam or one is Christian, and that is why this is how the allegiance will form. No, the allegiance is formed on the concerns of trade, the concerns of security, the concerns of strategy, the concerns for that particular nation and the space around it, for their own terrain. So these are the important concerns on which partnerships are made, and this is how we have seen about the Abrahamic Accords as well, right? So this was between Israel, UAE and Bahrain, and the idea is to extend India partnership along with Greece into it. So a good article on it. Case study of the day is an interesting one. It is on the person who has conquered their own mind, and through that they have also won a silver medal. Yes, we are talking of Raven Saunders, who participated in 2 Olympic events in shot put and in discus throw, both of it, right? And I'm demonstrating through this image what discus throw is about. So discus is thrown, shot put, a heavy ball is thrown, right? So she won a silver medal in shot put, and this lady has gone through a phase of depression. She also contemplated suicide, but she did not give up. She did not give up, and she finally won over her own mind and then a medal in the Olympic Games. And this is where we should look at our own highs and lows, our own success and failures. Why are we failing during the time of success, to understand that there will be another high in the life? And therefore, this article, this case study points us to the low times where we should not give up. We should never give up, and there is light at the end of tunnel, right? So this is a good reflection for all of us, for people who are preparing for exam, for people who are already in the service, right? So there is a point of low and there will always be a point of high, and that is when you will win a medal. Thanks for watching.